So, Luka Doncic is on his way to the Los Angeles Lakers in a three-team trade that the Utah Jazz are hilariously involved in, and history will forget that very soon. But Anthony Davis goes to the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic now plays in the sport's biggest team with the sport's biggest star. I can't wrap my head around it. Toxic in the chat. I still don't think the trade is real. And no, like, it is. You look at like the reaction when Shams tweets it out and everyone's like, okay, well, the account got hacked, and it's obviously hacked because there isn't like pick swaps, and this is what you would come up with where it's kind of like a, oh, ha 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 ha, isn't that funny? And my initial, how I saw it, mentioned it on Thursday, I believe it was. It's my wife's birthday today, so happy birthday, wife. But we went out for the birthday party stuff on Friday, on Saturday. And so we go out and we're having this time and whatever. I'm not checking my phone because we're interacting with a whole lot of people at Pin Bar in Calgary. Shout out Bastion Burger, unbelievable. But I go downstairs, go to the bathroom, and just check my phone, see what's going on. An Instagram post, there's Luka Doncic to the Lakers. I'm like, okay, the algorithm I didn't realize was showing me Laker Fan 23's Instagram account, but then you see it's a Fox one, I think it was, or whoever it was. It was a verified account, and I was like, okay, well maybe we're doing like a silly trades thing, and I missed that I was there before. No, that's a post. And so I went on Instagram, or I went on X, and it's like, wait a minute, this happened. This is a thing? This happened? I couldn't believe it. No part of me thought that it was a fake. And honestly, thought that it was real, sorry. And honestly, until I started typing out the notes today, I hadn't even thought about the basketball part of it yet. Like okay, well, how is this going to work on the floor? Because you're just thinking like contextually about like some of the biggest trades that have ever happened, and none of them are involving a 25-year-old who just carried his team to the finals and seems to be in his peak physical condition, or not peak physical condition, which we'll get to, but in the peak of his prime, and he now gets to go play on the team with the biggest player in the world. Like this doesn't happen. And you're getting like a lot of people casually tuning into basketball. You get a lot of, okay, well, explain this to me in hockey ways. And I understand a lot of my audience from that. So the hockey equivalent I could think of is like, you can't do, well, Leon Draisaitl traded because like I guess it'd be like Leon to the Penguins if the Penguins were still relevant. So it's Draisaitl to the Leafs because it's the biggest franchise for John Tavares and a couple of things, but not enough for Leon Draisaitl, right? Like that's basically the level that we are talking about here. This is genuinely one of the biggest trades that has happened in my lifetime. Like it's Gretzky traded. A-Rod, I guess, like the A-Rod trade to the Yankees from the Rangers, even like in hindsight, Shaq going from the Magic to the Lakers, which was technically a trade, although not really, and Kobe going from the Hornets to the Lakers. Those with the passing of time, those seem like bigger deals, but it wasn't at the time. And there's so much of this that's involved in it, where it's the players, whatever. And even like the surprise of it in 2025, when we have all this technology and all of these insiders and all of these things and all these different ways where these get out, because rumors and the rumor mill, especially in basketball, is such a big part of the sport and how people consume it. For it to be quiet, this is a bananas part of the trade, but all of it is just so mind-boggling to try to wrap your head around. 25-year-old star carried his team to the finals. Those guys just don't get traded. And now getting into the actual part of it. Once this happens, you knew there was going to be the leaks from everywhere, right? Like hey, you know what? Just didn't think he was in shit, didn't think he was committed. Maybe there was a locker room thing. And like on the one hand, I aside from a crime, I don't know if there's a justification for this trade. And to be perfectly blunt about it, even some crimes, I don't think justify this. Like, unbelievable that this happens, and any of the attempts of, well, you know what, it's this and it's that. I can't imagine a scenario where I'm going to see a report about, okay, well, he said X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to think, okay, well, that justifies it. That is where this one makes sense. It's wild. It's wild. And like, if you want to do the long-term health thing, which feels like that's where it's gone, right? We don't think that he is committed to his body or committed to this, and we don't want to give him that long-term money. He's 270 pounds, all these different things. Okay, doesn't make sense that the counterpunch to that is Anthony Davis, who takes care of himself, but has been injured constantly his entire career. He has stayed healthy long enough that he's not Zion, but hasn't stayed healthy long enough that he's what he probably could have been if that wasn't a thing. Phenomenal NBA career, all of those things, but if we're banking on health, that's not exactly the two-leg parlay, figuratively and literally, that I'm looking to bet on right now to do that one. So that doesn't make sense. And also, he's healthy now. Like, say what you want about his commitment to whatever, blah, 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 blah. On February 3rd, 2025, as far as I know, dude's healthy. So you have to get more back for him in the trade. Like, even if you come up with a scenario that trading one of the top 3 players in the NBA makes sense, whether he doesn't want to sign long-term, he doesn't want to do this, he doesn't want to do that, he's not this, he's not that, he's whatever. You have to get more back in the trade then. If you have a reasonable thought of, okay, we are going to do this, whatever, but you have to get more back. And that is the extra part of this whole thing. I keep, like, every time you stumble upon a different layer of this trade, the mind explodes again. To even think about trading Luka wouldn't enter my mind. Then you trade Luka and you don't get enough back. How? How do you only get 1 draft pick back? It's absurd. Like, trying to wrap your head around any part of this is going to make it spin around in a whole lot of circles and just kind of fade away like this graphic's going to in a second. Like, it just, no part of this absolutely makes any sense of it all. To trade him is insane. To trade him to the Lakers is funny. To trade him for Anthony Davis, a couple other pieces, and 1 pick is mind-boggling to me. Spy Canuck, I don't follow NBA much. Did he want out? There's some talk that maybe he wouldn't have signed, but he's under contract through, I think, next year anyway. Like, he was due for an extension this offseason. And because of the growing salary cap and all of those things, the Supermax, it would have been very, 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 very expensive to sign him. I don't think he had ever, like, there was no public admission that he wanted out or anything like that. It sounds like a lot of this was Dallas just had some thoughts and didn't think that signing this guy long term was going to be the way to do this. And so that is another aspect of this, is if that is the conclusion you come to, you have to get more than this. You just do. And, like, we'll talk about the basketball fit of this in a second, which is funny that it comes in like 195th of most interesting things about this trade is what it actually looks on the basketball court. But if he wants out, and if he is just not going to come back and whatever, you have to get more for him. The fact that there are teams around the league that were surprised that Luka was even available shouldn't happen if you are looking to trade one of the best players in the league. Like, that's not a scenario that can happen at all. You cannot allow that to be a thing. You have to, every team, some of the offers would be funny. I don't know what the Raptors could offer that would have got it there, but the Raptors needed a chance to offer. The Hornets, like, every team in the league needed their shot at offering and trying to at least get those numbers up a little bit. So again, even if he demanded his way out, you have to do better than this trade, and you have time to do it. He's not leaving at the end of the season. And, like, this offer right now, you're telling me the Lakers say no to this next year? Like, the season plays out. You're saying the Lakers are going, nah, we're good with that offer. Get all the way out of here. There's no chance. That offer would be there at any time you want. And, like, listening to some of the breakdowns of this trade today, like, Russillo was talking about it on his. Because right now, the Lakers, based on how it is, for people who don't super follow the NBA, because teams were to be saved from themselves, basically, the NBA put in a rule where you can't trade a first-round pick in back-to-back years. So if you trade your 2026 first, let's say, you're not allowed to trade your 2027 first, you can only trade your 28 first. And you only get access to them, like, 1 year at a time, right? It's years down the line, but you only get access to that one, whatever. So if you trade, let's say, just for argument's sake, let's say only up until 2031 is available, because that's going to come up here in a second. The second, if you trade that one, you like, okay, we have access to the 2032s, but you can't do that. So now you have to wait a full year until 2033. So this is, it becomes a little bit tricky to make some of those trades. And so the Lakers have two that they can trade right now, the 29 first and the 31 first. And then the way to get around some of those is pick swaps, is you can say, okay, well, we're going to set up a pick swap, and the Lakers in this case, or the Mavericks in this case, will get the best of the two teams' picks in 2030 or whatever. Teams will do that a ton to make it look like they're getting, we got 7 first-round picks. It's, you got 2, and some pick swaps that aren't going to hit. So it's a way to make trades look better, and it wasn't even involved in this. And like Rosillo said, you think the Lakers would have said no if Dallas is like, you know what, we're going to need both firsts. Like, could you have the balls to say, it's only one? Like, there's no way, right? Tall John 75, Luka and LeBron on the same team, poop emoji. That is a huge dynamic swing for the Western Conference playoffs. Yeah, I mean, that's, like, this is, basketball-wise, basketball IQ, this is one of the best teams that's ever been put together, right? Like, these guys just think the game at such a high level, and it makes it interesting. They're not, it's not perfect, and we'll get to the basketball part of that in just a second here, Tall John, but it is... Oh boy, yeah, no, it makes them really, really good. So now, again, breaking down a little bit more of this. I think we've established this by now, but just to make it 100% clear, no part of this makes sense for the Dallas Mavericks. How they went about it, actually doing it, and what they got back, it doesn't make sense. You have one of the top 3 players in the league at 25 years old that you built this whole thing around. You went out and got Gafford in Washington last year because they fit around this guy, right? To build this thing up. Now, AD added to this group does make it interesting, but it's not Luka. Future-wise, you did not get enough back. So you made yourselves worse right now. You didn't get enough for the future, and then financially, like, AD isn't all that cheaper, and just from a dollars and cents thing, I'm going to say you're going to sell more, you would have sold more Luka jerseys in the next little while than you will Anthony Davis jerseys. Just a thought. None of it makes sense. No part of it. And even if you were saving a bunch of money, you're still not getting enough back. The return is just simply not good enough. I can't imagine that there isn't a team out there that couldn't top this offer. And I can't imagine that the Lakers would have said no if you said, you know what? We'll do this again in the offseason. We just want to keep this thing together. We want to lock it. We really want to see if we can get the most out of him. And if we still think things are trending that way, then the day that the offseason starts, he's yours. And we're going to make that deal. There's no way the Lakers are saying no to any of this, right? Like, I can't. And back on the Dallas front and back on some of the excuses, like you know what? We don't think that commitment's there. Then you figure out how to get him committed. That, like, there are some players that you just like, you know what, the commitment's there, and you let them walk, and history be damned, or whatever. This ain't one of those guys. This guy is talented enough and special enough that you try everything to get it through to him. Whether you bring in, like, dietitian, coaches, whatever, have him live with David Goggins for a summer, whatever you need him to do to get motivated, to whatever, you try to get the most out of him. And I'm not saying they didn't. I don't know the lengths that they went to, but it probably wasn't enough if you came to the conclusion we need to trade him at 25 years old. It makes no sense. Like I said, these offers are going to be there when the offseason is here. And even if you're worried about him getting hurt, which apparently you are if you think he's out of shape, this is the return you get if he does get hurt. This is the return that you get with, well, we wanted to give it a go. He got hurt in the playoffs, though. And so because of that, teams are going to you're going to have to trade him for 75 cents on the dollar. This is the trade you get there if he blew his knee out. The amount of teams saying that they didn't know Luka was available was astonishing. You owe it to yourself to get the most out of this. Someone had promiscuous photos of Luka. I mean, like, maybe there was some kind of a thing that we don't know. The documentaries on this are going to be wild for all of it, right? Checking in on what this means now for the Lakers. It's insane. They looked stuck, right? Like, go back to a couple of years where they win the title, and then they let a lot of the key pieces of that championship run go, and their big move to try to fix it was to bring in Russell Westbrook. And that was kind of the last little bit of the assets that they had. And now I have said before, they did a good job of recovering off of that. Couple of trades that they made, couple of moves that they made to bring some guys in and round things out a little bit around LeBron and AD, made them good enough that they weren't going to bottom out. And with those guys, you hope that whatever, right? Like they gave the Nuggets the best run of any team in that championship run for Denver a couple of years ago. That's kind of the moral victories that you want, is that we have LeBron, AD, and a few guys around them, and if the bracket breaks our way and a couple of guys get hurt along the way, then maybe we can 2022 Warriors this thing up and get an opportunity. But they felt stuck. Now, they have one of the best players in the league who is just starting his prime, was in the most recent NBA Finals, thanks only, uniquely, and specifically to his talents and his talents alone. And you got him for barely, no, I'm not going to say barely anything, because AD's an all-star, but you got him for like 50 cents on the dollar. It's an interesting switch away from AD, but to be able to get this is nuts. Like, AD and LeBron, there's a lot going on there, right? Like the same agency and all that stuff. And so when the big trade was happening to bring in Anthony Davis, it was, I'm only going to one spot, and if anyone else trades for me, I'm not going to sign there. And so they forced their way to the Lakers. And now for them to just be like, yeah, fuck it, man, don't care, you're out, is nuts. It's crazy. And so even if you're going to move Anthony Davis, from a Lakers standpoint, if that's the case, then you have probably 4 trade chips right now that are worth anything. It's 80, it's Reeves, it's the 29 first, it's the 31 first. You got to keep 2 of those things and get the 3rd best player in the world. At worst, the 3rd best player in the world. Guy with at least a path to 1st best player in the world, and for like a decade. You know, like if it just clicks, if it just works for him, if he goes to LA and gets that Mamba mentality, then he's the best player in the league, and it's probably for a decade, maybe even 15 years. Like, he's 25 years old. He's doing he's dominating the league to a certain extent while being out of shape, while having these concerns, while not defending worth a lick. He's doing all these things, and he's still one of the top players in the league. If you can get that out of him, then look at this, off you go. And another thing they brought up on the Simmons podcast is this could be the inciting incident that gets that out of him, right? Like, we have seen some pretty dramatic go fuck yourself seasons before, right? Like Brady after Deflategate. If you go and watch the decision team with LeBron and the Heat, the Heatles, I guess, when they would play their old teams like Cleveland and Toronto, they went in and beat those teams by like 60. Like, they just had some otherworldly, like, yeah, we're the bad guys, and we're going to come in here and we're going to whoop you. They had some amazing seasons. Luka can top all that. If he's just like, oh, you guys don't think I can do it? Watch me. Then he can just take over the whole league, and it's crazy. So the fact that the Lakers didn't have to give up a whole lot and get a whole lot is nuts. And it is, I'm only going to address this for a couple of minutes. It is so good for the Lakers that I can see where people are getting conspiratorial about it and wondering if the NBA got involved. That's how crazy this trade is that enough of it makes sense that if you are someone who can believe those sorts of things, like that birds are spying on us and all of that stuff, if that's where your brain can go, then this one just two-handed shoves you in that direction, right? You get one of the best first of all, ratings are down. Ratings are down. You get an elite top 3 player in his prime going to your biggest market with your biggest star that you are shoehorning into a lot of different spots. Like, that has been the criticism, is that we're not getting enough of Luka and SGA and all of these guys on our TVs. And so they're like, well, we don't really want to put Dallas on TV more, although Dallas is a fine market, which is a little bit where the string kind of unravels on it a little bit. But we want to get Luka more on television, but we don't really want to put the Mavericks on TV more because they're around 10th right now. And you know what? He's going to the Lakers. It's like, well, how are we going to? Well, because there's just enough in there that you could, like, well, you have to give them something. Like, otherwise it's going to look ridiculous. So there's enough in there that Dallas can say, hey, we got ID and from a basketball, blah, 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 blah. But it's not so much that it's going to cripple the Lakers. And so they're now a very good basketball team and on in prime time another 35 times probably this season, even though there's probably only like 20 games left. I don't think it's fixed. I genuinely don't think that the league or any leagues really operate in that way. I'm sure there are some biases somewhere for some of the stuff, but I just, it's so crazy that part of you thinks it has to be something along those lines, right? Tall John, this is wild. Trading your franchise player. This is an NBA version of like the Patrick Waugh-esque trade, but less years in career for Luka. Yeah, that's fair. Like, Waugh was a bit more established, and as it turns out, had a few good years left, but not like 10 the way that Luka has, right? LeBron definitely has his fingers on this. I am very interested at LeBron's involvement in this whole thing because he and AD are supposed to be close, but I mean, you have a chance to get one of the 3 best players in the world, you do that, right? So very interested in LeBron's involvement, and I understand that we're probably talking a bit more conspiracy on that, Big John, or Tall John, sorry, but you can certainly see that for sure. Now to the basketball part of all of this. It's nuts. Like Tall John said before, like, good luck rest of the Western Conference. You have like 2 of the best basketball IQ guys on your team now at the same time. It takes so much of a load off of LeBron James that he should be able to rest a little bit more, and hopefully that helps his defense out a little bit. The one concern you would have from a basketball standpoint is that if LeBron's defensive issues now are more about, well, he's 40 than an effort thing, then defensively this team is actually quite bad. Because Luka, that's not his bag. And LeBron, it has been his bag for about 20 years, but at this point, it's not. So you do have a bit of a concern that, like, defensively it may not be great. Maybe LeBron, because he's not going to be asked to carry such a load, is going to be able to step things up a little bit more defensively. The issue, as it has always been, is, will LeBron allow Luka to take more responsibility on, right? Because that's always been, well, I mean, we'll just whatever. We'll get... There's that bit where Darvin Ham was playing LeBron James like exactly 30 minutes a night, right? And LeBron was losing his fucking mind over it, but they're trying to keep him healthy. And he's like, no, that's not how I do this. Well, now you have like the best guy with the ball in his hands in the NBA, one of them. And like, if I'm picking who I want the ball to be in the hands of more on this team, it's Luka. LeBron has never been in a situation like that before. They tried it in Miami a little bit, but eventually it just became, this is LeBron's team, so you just get it and you just go. That's not how this is going to be. And so there is a like path where this just goes shit south real quick. Like LeBron and Luka, there's only one basketball, and how do they balance that whole thing off? But the perfect version of this is LeBron defers to Luka a lot. They're both still involved. They're both incredible offensive players, and they take that and just dominate with it. LeBron is able to stay healthier longer into the postseason, and now this team can make a run. He's a little bit better defensively, and so that tightens up an area of weakness of this team, and now they're a superpower again. Like, that's where this thing can go from a Lakers standpoint. And I think that is probably the more likely outcome. I don't think that LeBron at this point, while whatever we may think of the ego of LeBron James, I don't think at this point he allows this team to go south just because I wanted the ball more when you have one of the best players on the league on your team. So that'll be an interesting kind of balancing act to see what you do with that. And then also, they still have that 31 pick that can make them make a move for a bit of a rim protector and just all of a sudden really figure this thing out. So looking at it now, I do kind of like how all of this being said, I don't like how we got there, all these things. But Dallas is set up actually kind of interestingly. If you'll just give me a moment. I did write these down. So like you look at what they can roll out there from a starting lineup, where you have Kyrie, Klay, PJ, AD, and Gafford. And then on the bench, you have Dinwiddie, Lively, and then Exum, Grimes, and they bring in Christie, who is actually all right for in the days leading up to this for the Lakers. Like, that's not a bad group to roll out there, right? Like, you kind of, honestly, and maybe defensively that might hinder a couple of things, but you move like Klay from the... Everyone moves down a slot, basically, right? Like, Kyrie goes from the 2 to the 1. Klay goes from the 3 to the 2. PJ from the 4 to the 3, which I do think he can play. AD slots in at 4, and you have Gafford at 5. AD doesn't want to play center. These guys got 2 centers who can play really, really well. And so he can do that. it is, I hate how they got there, but it is an interesting basketball mix. And then you look at the West, this feels like, again, if you want to try to justify it at all, this feels like a move targeted at OKC, who are unbelievably good, fantastic defensive team, but even with Hartenstein, not the biggest team. And so now you can throw size at these guys at basically every position but point guard and feel really good about that type of a matchup. And so that is where it becomes a bit of an interesting, like, well, at least there's something here that you can kind of go with. For the Lakers, like I said, they're a rim protector away from being really scary. As constituted right now, the lineup is Luka, Reeves, Rui, LeBron, and Hayes. So one of these things is not like the other. And then on the bench, you go Finney-Smith Connect. You can go Vanderbilt, Milton, and Vincent. So again, they have some sneaky, not bad depth. Luka and Reeves and LeBron as a unit out there is just absurd. And whatever. But again, defensively, it's not ideal. But there are rim protectors who are out there. There are bigs who are out there. I don't know if Valanciunas is the one that maybe you would want necessarily, but there are big rim protector guys out there that you can get, and you still have a couple of trade chips if you're the Lakers that you can go out and actually make that happen. If they get that, I don't know if I wouldn't favor them against every team in the West, but basically it's OKC. I still believe in Denver. So, but even then, now your depth is better than Denver's is, right? And you have some interesting things you can throw at, that you can throw at Jokic with. So, it gets interesting anyway. But you look at it, and I don't know if they, I don't know, aside from OKC and Denver, I don't know if I would pick anyone else against them right now. And that's an unbelievable spot for this team to be in when it didn't seem like that was going to be the case. A couple more here from Tall John. This could be like Magic and Kareem's situation if they can style well, modern era style. Yeah, if they can click well, modern style era or modern era style. Holy cow. You're right. Like if it works, it has the potential to be so dominant for at least a couple of years, right? Like if it works to the best of its ability, then you can put fucking Bronny out there if you want. It's not gonna matter. These guys are gonna be unstoppable. And then or Mamba and Shaq, same deal. Lakers get Rodman out of retirement just for a playoff run. Dennis Rodman would be Ben Wallace. What's Ben Wallace doing? Like that kind of a rim protector guy. Just lock that one in and do that. But no, it is an unbelievable trade. And every other aspect of it, whether it's the why, the how, the what, and the future, every little part of it unravels a new detail that is just so hard to figure out. It's nuts. It's crazy. And I think it does have just league shakeup ramifications for the next little while. The interesting part of this is that teams have a few days to try to figure out what the counterpunch is. Like, what is the next aspect of this? What's the next domino to fall in it?